Okay. Let's get started. It's 7 o'clock on Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025. I'm calling this meeting of the Chelmsford Conservation Commission to order. My name's Carl Bischoff. I'm the chair of the commission. We will be following the published and posted agenda. This meeting is both in person and through Zoom. In the case of the Zoom not working properly, we will continue the meeting in person. The meeting is being broadcast and recorded by Chelmsford Telemedia and will be available on their website and also on YouTube. And we do have a quorum. We have a not quite full committee. We are still looking for a seventh member, but we have all six of the current members here, so we have a quorum. But we don't have any regulatory hearings tonight, nothing in front of us. Do we not have anything open right now? Do we have anything continued?
Yes, the old Westford Road.
Right, that's continued. Okay, thank you.
It's the only one, but there's...
That's the only one open, right?
Yeah, but there's right now there's 3 filings for the next meeting.
Oh,
so far, and there may
So
be
far.
more.
Okay.
So
All right.
enjoy the lull while it lasts.
Yeah, enjoy that. Well, we still have a decent-sized agenda. I don't think it'll go till midnight, but we do have a good agenda. Oh, boy, did I get Mark's attention. All right. Peter, you had first thing to talk about was we have an opportunity to get some expert help from a member of our community in the form of a environmental science soon-to-be graduate.
Yes, and Gracie Wood is here tonight, and she'll tell us in a second about herself, but I also wanted to share first with the commission, Carl and David Coons and I had some conversation about establishing a position or two. Well, let's call them unpaid interns. That would be students, high school or college, that would help us with whatever the student had time for and whatever the student was interested in. So I took the liberty of capturing some of that discussion in this position description that I've handed out. And one thing that sort of drove the interest is I had the pleasure of meeting Gracie Wood, who will come and tell us about herself, but she was interested in finding a way to help us over the next 6 months. So Gracie, if you wouldn't mind, just a few words about yourself.
Hi, I'm Gracie, and I'm a student at UMass Law, as they mentioned, in environmental science. And I'm just interested in helping out with whatever I can, really, with the Conservation Commission. At school, I do a lot of stuff. I mean, a wide variety of stuff about, like, sustainability. I do GIS mapping, hydrology, just, like, stuff with plant life. So I feel like I could have some to contribute from that.
We have a lot in that, right in those areas. We have a lot. I'll say I just got a text from the young man around the corner who's a freshman at UMass, who helped us last summer. And he's also looking to help us with some GIS stuff. So, so I think it's great. I think it's great to have. Do we have questions for Gracie? Anybody?
Well, I was just going to add, Gracie and I have had some conversation. Of course, a lot of this depends on how much time the individual has.
Right.
But, and we haven't settled on anything tangible, but one example that I would find useful that you had some interested in, I'd love to have a map in front of us of wildlife corridors. Because one of our regs is this, help me out, David, the contiguous property, the cumulative effects, and we talk about wildlife, and I think it would be very helpful to sort of have in front of us a bit of a map, and that would be one idea. I think there's lots of other ideas, though, and it really depends on what the student, in this case you, Gracie, would find interesting. So, David, you and I kind of committed to each other to make this thing work and be sure that there's, things of interest and of value.
So along those lines, I think there's always a great need for documenting wildlife resources on the Commission's properties. I don't know if you've done much with certifying vernal pools, if you're aware of that, but that's something that's really fun, really good to get to know. And we have a number of, I know there's a number of uncertified vernal pools on the commission's properties. And it could also be as much, just photographing, going out on a regular basis, looking for, interesting wildlife and just making a photographic record. I keep hearing about bobcats being seen on commission lands. It would be really good to have a set of those. We're working on modifying the town website to post wildlife sightings, and that, again, that would be a really big help, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I might just mention, Gracie is obviously the daughter of Paul and Christy Wood, who have a lot of it, and so Gracie, you have a lot of experience kind of watching the hearings at the Hildreth property where it captured a lot of the issues before us. So there's all kinds of things that we could, use some help on. So thank you.
Great to have you. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Thank you, Peter. Next up is a report from our planning board liaison.
I'm just going down to the control room.
Oh, okay. Should we keep going?
Yeah, keep going.
Our planning board liaison, also now the planning board chair?
Chair, yep.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you. So, yeah, last meeting we had our reorg meeting. I am the new chair, John Souza is the vice chair, and Joel Luna is the clerk. We also did our liaison appointments, and I continue to be the Concom liaison. We had 2 informal presentations and discussions for 2 potential projects, one on 256 Chelmsford Street, the Chelmsford Mall. They're looking to do potential parking lot improvements and 2 upscale fast casual restaurants at the entrance where those 2 upper parking lots are. We also had 191, 195 Riverneck come before us with this informal presentation as well. It's the home, the single-family residence property plus the vacant lot right next to it. Potential contractor yard for that location as well. We had a discussion on Kate's Corner, continuing that. And we also talked about the aquifer protection questionnaire that you guys also got. After that meeting, I compiled all of the questionnaires from the planning board members and submitted it on behalf of the planning board. So we'll be reviewing that questionnaire at tomorrow's meeting. We've also continuing the Kate's Corner discussion, hopefully closing that out soon, potentially going into a more formal public hearing phase of those changes down the road. And then we've got another potential area for that new zone that we're looking at creating. The owner of the mills across from the establishment where the dance location is, they came before us with a proposal for their property to also be included in this new zone that we're looking at creating. It's more of a buffer between industrial and residential. So we're calling it potentially a CB light. Where there's a little bit of commercial and light industrial use. And that's pretty much it. We don't have any regulatory items on the agenda this week as well. It's going to be a pretty short meeting, and then we'll be heading over to the town meeting pre-meeting for the zoning articles right after that.
What time is your meeting?
Our meeting starts at 6 this week.
Okay.
It'll probably last for about an hour and 15, hour and a half, and then we'll head over to the other meeting.
Okay. Any comments, questions? Peter?
Yeah, Chris, a question. Is the planning board's gap analysis questionnaire on your agenda?
It is now.
And then we submitted one on behalf of the commission, but I didn't copy anyone, I don't think,
I get a copy.
outside of the commission, so I don't know if we want to share that with the planning board. If you want, ask Carl or me.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
That's fine.
I'm sure it'll come out in the discussion soon anyway.
Yeah.
Anything
Okay.
else? All right. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris. See if David's coming back. We can keep going. Okay, next up, as I said, no regulatory hearings, so next up is discussion and future status of the COSS MOU. So we have, I'd like to talk about a way forward on our reservation management. We currently have an MOU, a memorandum of understanding with the Chelmsford Open Space Stewardship. The last signed MOU is from 2017. There was an attempt to change it in 2021 by adding the Russell Mill Conservation Commission Native Plant Park. I don't think it ever got signed, but that was the only change. So essentially, the 2017 version is still the latest, as far as I can tell. The issues I'm seeing are that COSS has not and will not communicate with the commission on any kind of regular basis. We should be having regular in-person discussions with the Trails Stewardship Organization here in our part of our meetings. It shouldn't be through email and Facebook postings. I don't consider the relationship working well. I think it's not working well. I don't think it's effectively supporting the interests of the land that we are responsible for and the people that like to use the land. So I see some issues there. The terms of the MOU, one of the terms includes that Concom and COSS will work together. I don't really see that happening. It doesn't happen. There's supposed to be a 3-year work plan to be generated. I've been on the commission 6 years, and I haven't seen anything come before the commission in terms of a work plan. The sites are somewhat cherry-picked. COSS did not want to support Warren Pole. COSS has not agreed to support Coulis, which is a commission property at the moment. You know, being the commission, the town manager and the select board asked the commission to take responsibility for Coulis. So it's kind of cherry picking. And then there's been issues with social media. A lot of, I would consider, attacks on the commission and incorrect information not being corrected. So this is kind of where I'm coming from. Our open space and rec plan just updated and submitted recently. One of the goals in there is on stewardship, and an action was to revisit and strengthen land stewardship program as part of the land management plan, and that's owned by us, the Conservation Commission. So when I step back and think about that, I don't think we're in a strong position working with COSS. I think we need to do something different. That's my take on it, and that's my recommendation. So I'm looking for discussion and comment from my fellow commissioners and see if we're on the same page or if anybody sees anything different. Peter, do you want to start us off? Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm still the new guy because you all have been doing this a long time. But as I look at the documents and whatnot, what strikes me is the old MOU and the open space and rec plan emphasize working together. And as you guys know, that's important to me because this land stewardship requires a lot of different people working together. And so I've been a little bit frustrated, to Carl's point, that we don't seem to be working together. And I think that's really important. Secondly, yeah, there has been some negativity on social media, not from us, but other parties. And I've gone on record, that's not the kind of town that I think I live in. I'm kind of new, last couple years, getting involved in this stuff, and I've been pleasantly surprised at how just about everybody in town, DPW, Board of Health, Planning Board, goes on and on, have been incredibly open to communicating, to meeting, to hammering out differences of opinion. And to me, that's what it takes, not personally, because that's what I want from the town, that's what it takes to be good land stewards, because it is complicated to do it with a lot of moving parts. And
Okay.
that's my only observation.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate it, Peter. Chris?
I mean, there's been a lot of good accomplished over a number of years. So I mean, I think we have to remember a lot of good has been accomplished. And
Okay.
You make sure you're speaking up. It's,
I was just saying, Mr. Chair, there's been a lot of good accomplished. A lot of good work's been done.
I didn't know that.
We're all volunteers, and we're all doing the best we can in that capacity. I would say that yes, I mean, to be honest, we certainly had some communication issues, and we're, we have a responsibility under the town bylaw and under state law to maintain our oversight of these reservations, and it's difficult if we're not getting information, we're not getting responses back, so it makes our job, quite difficult at times. So there's been challenges. I mean, I think, you got to look, though, there's a lot of good's been done, for sure. I won't take away from that, but on the other hand, maybe this is the time to take a look at making some changes and try to make things better. So those are my thoughts.
Thanks. Mark, do you have anything?
Yeah, I think our last meeting was very eye-opening when the Boy Scouts came before us, and they got in a situation they should never be in.
Right.
And that made us look foolish. It never should happen. And I think I think they were steered on the wrong path. I don't think it was in the interest of conservation or COSS. It's just upon themselves to do what they wanted to do. And I'm in favor of just severing ties.
Doing something different.
Yes.
Okay. Bill?
Yeah, I agree. I think it was years ago, we had a great relationship. It seemed to have changed lately. So maybe it's time to move on and go in a different direction and more positive direction. I support
A change,
a
okay.
change in that.
John?
I agree with everything.
Okay.
What I saw with the Boy Scouts was the same thing, that the steering wasn't steered in the correct path,
Yeah,
so.
okay. So per the, that's pretty consistent across the board. So I'm looking for then a motion to notify costs of termination of the MOU. I will, upon that motion, I'll send a note, and we can move forward and talk about something future.
So, Mr. Chair, I think procedurally, last time I looked at the MOU, I think it was, a 6-month period notice? We would give a notice
Yep.
to terminate effective 6 months from today, presumably then, okay? Yeah. Good. All right, well, I'll make a motion then that we terminate our MOUs with the COSS, Chelmsford Open Space Stewart Group, effective 6 months from today.
Motion from Chris, do I have a second?
Second?
Second from Bill. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion's unanimous. I will send a notice, and I appreciate it. I do want to say there were many good events over the years, but it just has not been working lately.
Carl,
And I
what was
just
talking
see-
about MOUs, what other MOUs do we have?
We have one with the youth soccer for the Russell Mill Field.
Right.
Which, that's like 15 years or 10 years old. It's a long old, but I don't think there's really any issues there.
No. How about the bike?
And then the mountain biking group, and we have
We have a good relationship
we
with
have a
them.
good, yeah, it's gone great. I've been out to the site with them and walked the site with them, and they point out some things, and that's going well. We did a update to that, although I don't think we ever officially signed the update, but everything's going fine there.
Yeah, we
but-
may want to look into updating that and
Yep.
signing that, so it's all official.
And that's it. That's the
Yeah,
only.
And then going forward, well, there's other groups and other people that want to do projects.
Yeah.
We're not going to do MOUs with anybody at this point, going
No.
forward. We're going to structure it differently.
Yeah, so
Have a plan?
I think what we want to do is we've talked offline a little bit about having commission members assigned to sites as a starting point, which is just kind of being a point person for each site, so we could possibly do something like that. I've also, I asked Chris, and he agreed to be a representative to the scouting organization in town.
Yes.
So be the commission representative, so if anything wants to be done on the town commission site, properties, Chris can be a point of contact for that, so I appreciate that. But I think the main thing is to create a subcommittee, some kind of a trails subcommittee, which David and I talked about, and it's like, that's just the normal thing in every other town. It's a trails subcommittee that has a reporting relationship with a lead person that would report into us on a regular basis. I wouldn't prescribe it has to be every meeting, but, monthly or quarterly or some regular update.
Is this
There's things that are going on.
Conservation members or the public, or who's it?
It could be anybody from the public. It could be 1 or 2 members from the commission as well on this subcommittee. And they would create plans for sites, for different, for all the sites. I'd like to see stewards assigned to each site, a steward that's responsible to like clean the parking lot and keep an eye on trails and whatever, and kind of in partnership with a commission member, be kind of like the lead people on a given site. We do have some people doing that on a number of sites already. I would expect that they'd like to continue doing that, but we definitely have some sites that are open, and so we have to figure that out. So I think what we need to do is start looking towards building a subcommittee of a trails management, site management, whatever we want to call it. Subcommittee, 5 people, 7 people, something like that, but or at least have a person that is the key, point of contact that's willing to come in and talk to us.
What I get concerned about is that we create a subcommittee that goes off in their own direction a little more than we might like them to, and the board doesn't have a hand in everything. It becomes its own entity, which then we're back in the same position.
Right.
I would rather see maybe each member of the board have a site or two that they not control or run, but they just take a look at, and they can report back, okay, say Warren Pole. Kyle, everything's, Warren Pole's going great, the parking lot needs a little bit of dirt, so we'll put that on a maintenance list. And it doesn't have to be a long, I would like to see it at each meeting, have a land management, it might go 20 minutes. And then we're kept up to date. It becomes more of, not just all regulatory, we're doing land maintenance, management also. So, like, I would be willing to, I'm up at Oak Hill all the time. I'm over at Coulis's all the time. I wouldn't mind, I could take a look at those, report back on those sites. Not that I'm making decisions, but I'm the liaison between the board and what's going on at those sites, so that I don't have to go to all sites and know what's going on,
Yeah, and
if
if I-
everybody took a little bit of interest.
Yeah, I like your thinking, and if I could add, as you may recall, the Open Space and Rec Plan calls for creating a land management plan for each, at least the big reservations, and I think doesn't really define what that is, but I think a lot of us were thinking like a one-page, this is sort of what the plan is, and then that could become the basis of the steward's focus, along with some of the routine stuff that you mentioned, and then, like you say, we could make a structure.
You could have a maintenance,
Yeah,
and you could have a project column.
Yeah.
So these are ongoing maintenance issues that you did
Right.
half an hour or half a day jobs, and then you have the big projects, things you'd like to do at that site. So say if a Eagle Scout or a citizen wants to do some work on a specific site, you say, okay, well, at Warren Pole, we have this, and this, we'd be interested in you doing. Pick from that list.
Right.
So have it structured so that
Right.
each site has a maintenance and a project.
right,
or-
and then that structure would address your question or concern, of how that reports into this commission to avoid, what you're
Right.
concerned about. Yeah,
I mean, there's other people that are interested in doing work on the sites. It's not just us.
Well,
I mean, there's a lot
yes.
of other people.
yes,
So they could, like, ADA, someone interested in ADA
Yep.
could help us with that piece of the pie.
Yep.
Or somebody who's got a piece of machinery that, okay, we need to move a couple rocks around. Maybe we, talk to that person, but they work within our liaison on the commission.
right,
So that everybody knows what the other one's doing, so nothing's getting done. Because I've seen things with different sites where things are being done that aren't part of the big picture. And it's good work that people are doing, but you got to
Should be
have a
visible.
plan.
Should be visible.
You don't build a
Agreed.
house without a plan. So
agreed.
you might have somebody pulling evasives out of the woods somewhere, but maybe their efforts could be better served in the parking lot area or here, and because it builds to the bigger picture. I don't know, just a
Yeah.
few ideas, but
Makes sense.
I mean, I wouldn't mind having a couple sites where I go a couple of pretty much every day.
Right.
If everybody did that, we'd have a better hands-on.
Russell Mill. It's your backyard.
It's my backyard. I can have my daughter look out her backyard and watch, over there too.
We'll get you an electric bike so you can cruise the bike trails.
I'm not,
No?
as long as I don't have to talk to anybody on a computer, I'm fine. Give them my phone number,
Right?
No, that works. That
That
works.
works too.
that's all.
All right, so
Could
why
I-
don't we,
could I add one thing?
yeah, yeah.
I just feel like I want to say this. I know we're all thinking this, but in this vote we're about to take, or
No.
because we
took.
didn't take it.
We
I mean,
did.
we're not. We want people using our land
100%.
for events.
Yeah.
We want volunteers that have good projects. We want the public, everybody,
Yep.
to have access to our lands. I mean, this
100%.
is not about that. We want to
Yep.
keep it wide open for the public.
But
And
we're,
anybody that
we're
wants-
tasked to manage the properties. If we don't manage them,
Right.
Right,
we're not doing our job either.
right.
Agree.
And if we're not
Doesn't mean you don't
aware-
appreciate everybody's efforts. I mean, there's people that do a lot of work in a lot of different places you don't even see. I go up to Oak Hill almost every day. People go in there and cut trees that fall on the trails, and you don't know who they are, you don't see them, they don't come looking for,
Right.
any gratitude, but
They just take care of
they
it.
just take care of
Yeah.
it, so.
And that's the case on quite a few sites. Yeah.
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 So there's a lot of good people that are doing a lot of stuff, but
So I
we
think
need some control. We need to manage the property that we've been tasked to
I would
manage.
suggest that we think about how to move forward without taking any specific action now. See if there's anyone out there in the community that's willing to work with us in some way. But I think I like the idea of having us being much more active. I'm in favor of that. But think about that in your own area if you have any particular sites. I know Chris.
I like Crooked Spring.
Crooked Springs right in your backyard,
Yeah.
so, whatever, we can.
I'll give you an
we can
example,
Figure that
Carl,
out.
if I can.
Yep,
At Thanksgiving Forest, doing the garden, they came before us to discuss how they were gonna do things down there and what they were gonna do. DPW got involved, we met with the neighbors down there. I was down there today, there's a beautiful little shed.
Yeah.
It's not a shed, it's a small little building that holds a 250-gallon tank that they fill with water. The thing is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's put right where we asked them to put it. Nobody took it upon themselves just to bring something down there and put it there. It was an effort of a lot of people, and it looks beautiful. And maybe a little work needs to be done as far as grading a little bit where the trees were
Yeah.
cut and all
All
that
that,
stuff. But this,
Right.
minor things, but it looks beautiful.
Right.
The building's beautiful.
well, the same thing is, we had Becky Warren was here at the last meeting?
Right.
Last meeting, yes.
Talk about the invasive
Right.
removal plan at Warren Pole that she wanted to
Right.
do. They got going on that last week. It looks great. It's already happening. So
But that's what happens when you
Those
work
things.
together with the
Right.
when people come in, they discuss what they want to do, you give the input, and you go out there and actually work with them.
Right. And
You
if
get
I
a-
could,
Yep.
excuse me, if I could add, because, we were all out there, the beauty of the pollinator effort and working together is because the commission was brought in, right? And Carl, you probably led most of this, I realized. But DPW was brought in to help with invasive removal. So we
Nobody,
added
yeah.
another town objective to the project. And then, he's here tonight, Dave Sperry came by with some of the ADA work he and others have been doing, and with at least a conversation about future plans for more ADA access and a fishing dock. So there were it ticked off 5 things on our town plans
Right.
that are good for the town because we worked together.
Yep.
Right, and that's what we have to strive for now. I think it was going a different direction.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I think we're going to get into more land management stuff soon enough. We're not going to get to that yet, David, but we have a couple more items. But we will talk about land management in detail in a few minutes. But we have a couple more items on our agenda right now. Gap analysis, Peter and Mark, you guys submitted to the consultant. Any comments or anything you want to underscore here?
Yeah, I'd just like to mention, I think I sent everybody a copy. What Mark and I did, we took everybody's comments, but I did a fair amount of wordsmithing on the document. It says the same thing, but it was a little clunky as a first draft. And basically, it just said, we can do a little more with our existing regs and the town, and we probably need some new regs. So it's nothing new there.
Okay.
Regs or policy or something.
Do we know if there's, I know you also included a comment about, like, we really need to have a conversation, discussion, and not just submit some
Right.
questions. Do we know if that's going to happen or not?
I don't. I did ask Mr. Lassard, the consultant, to at least let me know if he received it, because I
Yeah.
have not met him. And he did generously respond quickly, yes, yes, I have your comment. So I do not know
Okay.
the answer to that. I do think that the different boards involved are really more or less on, maybe not on the same wavelength for exactly what to do, but everyone is, I think I wrote this, I think I added this, Mark, everyone, the good news, he asked for positive and negative things going on, and I think I wrote, the positive thing is all the different boards recognize this is something important and want to work on this. I mean, that's a great, you think about getting something done in a town, everyone involved wants to do the right thing. We just need to figure that out.
Okay.
So that's cool. I
Okay.
like that.
Well, I hope we get something really positive out of this, and I know that in combination with some of the bylaw regulation changes we're looking at, all of that might help us going forward with some of the complicated and challenging permits that come before us, so I'm going to remain optimistic. I hope it gets, we improve
Yes.
in that area, because we're a little bit handcuffed in places.
So,
Okay.
I have to admit, I don't know what the next step is after the questionnaire has been submitted.
Right.
Has he indicated, Mr.
I don't
Lassard
know.
indicated?
Should we ask you or,
It would really be
Me
the
or
Board of
somebody
Health,
to-
I think,
Yeah,
isn't it?
shall we-
It's the Board of Health is sponsoring this initiative,
Mm-hmm.
so maybe it's Donna Greenwood or,
Okay, I'll see what I can find
Yeah.
out.
I mean, that's really how this thing started. Don't you recall, we were having trouble on one of the approvals and we called a big meeting of all the different entities.
Yep.
That's how this thing started, so my hope was and at that meeting, by the way, which Evan Belansky put it together, but brought in the, 4 or 5 different entities, everyone agreed at that meeting that it would be a good to meet, and people were even talking about quarterly. And that was a year and a half ago, so I thought, there's probably the precedent to do that coordination. You want to just find out the status, and we probably need to wait
Yep.
for our consultant to give the recommendations, I would think.
yep.
Right?
Okay, next on our agenda is the illegal sheds, and so my understanding of this is that, we received a complaint from Mr. St. John many months ago on 6, I think it was 6 properties in town with what he claimed to be containers in wetland, at least I think he complained, in wetland. And my Google Earth and GIS look on this says most of them, they're not even near wetlands. So there's nothing illegal about having a container in private property. That's just not an issue. And if there are a handful, I'm not looking to go chase anything down because somebody's making a complaint about some other people because we happen to put some pressure on him to make a change. So looking around, I'm seeing nods in agreement. So I think it's worth it to say, let's, we appreciate the input, but, what I saw like I said, I did a Google Earth and a GIS look, and I did a drive-by on all of them too, and I didn't see anything that was egregious, that made big concern for me.
Well, and I not infrequently, or the building department not infrequently gets people coming in inquiring about sheds, what is the size to need a building permit. They're always advised, even if they're exempt from having to get a building permit, they still need to satisfy zoning. They still need to satisfy, wetland regulations. And in fact, just today, someone was in asking about that, and it turns out they do have a lot of wetlands in and near their property. So I said, which is a typical response. Please stake the 4 corners of the shed. I'll go down and take a look at it, and then make some kind of a determination whether or not
Yep.
you need to file with the commission. I mean, there is an exemption,
Yep.
for putting sheds on lawn if they're small enough and they're at least 50 feet away from the wetlands. So, I consider it part of my job to get involved in assisting people with that.
I think that's, and it's good. I think your judgment's as good as, better than any of ours. You've been doing this a long time, David, so I think that's the right approach.
And if I could just add, the way I'm looking at this thing is, our regs talk about applicants telling us what the environmental impact is of their actions. We're not really pushing that a lot, but to me, the question is there environmental impact? So the original big shipping container on top of wetlands that were partly filled with tree trunks and dug up is more of an environmental impact than when David sees a shed and says, put it on piers and
Yeah.
plant some bushes here to temper it, to mitigate a little bit, So there's different levels here.
Someone tattling on somebody down the street because it's been there for 20 years, and it's like,
We're not the
It's-
conservation police.
yeah, exactly. If
Right.
if it's like dripping oil or something, okay, all right. But, I mean, I don't want to say we're not concerned, but I just don't think we want to keep pursuing this any further. Okay, any other comments or? Okay. Continual business update on Freeman Lake parcel boundary surveys, David?
I'm waiting until the beginning of the fiscal year for the commission's budget to replenish before I ask for an estimate to do those 5 granite bounds. We just don't have any money at the moment.
A couple more months, maybe. Yeah, we're actually not that far. You could
Right.
even start in May or June.
Yes.
Because by the time you get it, we'll be in the,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Yes.
I know, it takes forever to make these things happen. It's frustrating, but,
Well, we also talked about putting a fence as well, so
Yep.
get that estimate, and
okay.
hopefully you'll be able to do all of that, at the start of the fiscal year.
Okay, all right. All right, land management, we will talk about, well, first I want to talk about, one quick thing is, on Saturday, we did do our cleanup on Robin Hill and the Wright Reservation on Acton Road. We had Mr. Gibbs, Mr. Vines there from the commission, I was there. Ken Dews and Jamie Durgay from the Land Trust were there. We had Brian Strip, who was on our open space and rec plan, he was there. And we had Rick Burgess and Will Obendorf, who are just friends of mine, who I turned their elbows and twisted their arm, and they showed up. But we had 7 or 8 people there, and we got a lot of trash. I think it was, you took one.
Two.
Yeah, I think we had like 8 bags of trash that we got along Acton Road, and it looks way better. It looks a lot better. Huh?
And a fire extinguisher.
And a working fire extinguisher, a fully loaded, charged fire extinguisher. And all the way down Parker to Wright Reservation parking lot, get that far. And then all the way down Acton Road to Burning Tree Lane, more or less. And the other end of Acton Road down to one of the neighbors' houses a ways down. And then up Byam Street until another neighbor's house. So, we own that Robin Hill property. That's our Robin Hill Reservation. So I was really pleased. We had a good turnout. It was about an hour and a half, 2 hours of work. So it was a good volunteer effort. I really appreciate it. I've got 2 bags sitting in front of my house right now, getting ready to go out to the Harvey pickup tomorrow. So next is the discussion of the Land Conservation Trust, Burbank Gardens and Conservation Land. This is the East Chelmsford, across from the fire department. So the Land Trust, just more of a refresher, the Land Trust owns about 1/4 of an acre adjacent to our parcel, which is 9 1/4 acres. This is also adjacent to East Chelmsford Water District and St. Joseph Cemetery. It's a lot of open space in that area. I guess do you call a cemetery open space? It's green. It's green with some granite. And so the Land Trust has been developing their site into including a park and a native plant garden. They're actively working on that. We voted nearly 2 years ago. I had to dig to find this. It was June of 2023. We voted to allow the creation of 3 to 4 parking spaces on our property to benefit this site. And then nothing's happened since then. So I'm just kind of reminding us that we're going to get that to happen. I will reach out to Christine Clancy to the DPW to try to get that to happen. We're looking for 4 spots for parking, including one of them being an accessible spot. And then in addition, they're looking to have some kind of an agreement to allow ongoing maintenance on that combined, it's kind of a combined property, we have a lot of land in the back in the woods. We're not talking about the woods, we're not talking about any of that that goes back most of the ways. But there is an area that was cut grass, it's more or less a lawn. They have someone who wants to maintain that, and they just want our agreement and our approval to cut the grass on a regular basis on their side and our side, do the weeding, and make it a nice place. By the way, East Chelmsford is very light on open space, green spaces. I thought it was part of the environmental justice block. It's not. This area is just outside of that. But it's definitely the right thing to do to support this kind of an initiative in that area.
So where are those properties located again, Carl?
Canal Street.
Yeah, look for Canal Street.
Okay.
Is that it right there?
Yeah.
Yep. So it's that parcel right there and the little white notch just above it right there. It's that little tiny notch, nope, right there. That's the land trust parcel.
Okay.
And then ours is the big one that surrounds it. So the only space that's going to be mowed is, they have that blue spot, and roughly, I'm going to just guess, roughly the same space to the left of that is, I think it's in that order. Is that right, Dave, nodding?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's just, it's already it's been a green mowed area for years, other than there was a house there that's gone, but it's been mowed forever, so we're not really changing anything there. We're just going to allow them to do that, so.
Well, didn't Warren Bowl have interest in that for something? Didn't Becky Warren have something to do with that?
Well, Becky's part of the land trust, and so
Okay,
she and Dave and Scott Venier,
I get it, okay.
all, this is
I'm trying to remember.
the land trust trying to, move forward on this. I think they've engaged Giancarla Kalpas, who's the town expert on native pollinator gardens. She's been involved in helping them get that going. I know they were doing stuff last year on this. So I think Scott's on the call. I was advising him to enjoy his trip out in Michigan, but he might have joined, and Dave's here. But I'm just bringing this up to remind the commission that that's what we agreed to, and we're going to try to move forward with that, try to work with DPW to make that happen. I think it's a good thing. We don't need to vote on anything or anything like that, but, yeah, Peter?
So the mowing is the small parcels we mentioned, not the
No.
bulk of it.
No, I've walked that
Yeah,
back
right.
area, and it's possible that we could put a walkway and a trail in there, but it's as you can see, it's very wet. It's kind of a cool area.
And it's wooded, isn't it?
It's all woods, yeah. It would be a very
It says
challenging.
canal went through there.
Yep, it's right there, yeah.
Still see it, yeah.
Yeah, it would be, it could be, but that's like, maybe someday we get to that. We got enough on our plates.
And is our parcel, David, right where your cursor is? Can you click on yeah. We don't own on the other side of canal, do we?
No,
No.
Okay, because there was
Beyond
some,
that's the Chelmsford Water
it's the
District.
East Chelmsford Water District.
In the center.
and there's a private lot there with some,
Yeah,
another conversation for another day.
yeah, exactly.
There's two water districts down there.
Are they both, they're, one's east and one's center?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. I think, yeah, that sounds familiar, okay. Yeah,
Well, those are the wells,
can't get any more complicated.
I know.
well, those are the wells that we were concerned about, because right across the street, more or less, is 270 Billerica Road. When I
Okay.
say across the street, I mean groundwater hydraulically.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so, like I said, I will, I have like a list of things to connect with DPW on, so that will be on my list. I just wanted to run it by you guys first, and unless Scott pipes in and says I missed something, or Dave, but I think I've got it covered, so. Okay, let's keep moving now. If we wanna, Dave, you wanna go back to that slide deck on the land management and reservation updates? And I will go through this fairly quickly. If you want to start there, David, go to the next page.
Okay.
So I'm going to, can you shrink that up a little bit?
Okay, sorry about
Or
that.
make it full screen, or?
Can you read that? Or maybe I can make it a little,
Yeah,
not, can't make it any larger with,
there you go. That's good. that's fine. So, I'm gonna break this into two parts, and I'm gonna do a little bit of what I understand land management, conservation, property, a little bit of I don't know what you call it, a primer or something like that, go through some things for setting the stage here. So we have conservation reservations or conservation areas, whatever you want to call it, on the left, which are generally our classic public access, trails, parking lots and all that kind of stuff. We know the usual suspects. And then we have conservation land, which can be very limited to possibly no public access. There's typically no designated parking, there's no kiosk, there's not necessarily marked trails. It's just, and it's not really actively maintained, whereas our reservations are maintained. You know, we keep trails clear, we have signs, we have all of that stuff. So the examples on the left are the Cranberry Bog, Red Wing Farm, Russell Mill, Crooked Spring. But on the right, we have, three refuges, we call them wildlife refuge, the Black Brook one, the River Meadow Brook, and the Bobby Greenwood one, which is down off of Concord Road by Algonquin, I think it is, down that way. We also have that property we just looked at, the 116 River Neck Canal Street property, we have that. We have Freeman Lake parcels, which we just talked about a few minutes ago, and there's many of those parcels. And then there's many, many, many individual parcels all around town that are just, some of them are kind of random parcels. That would be on that right side of the conversation. I'm not going to spend much time, if any, on the right side. Peter, I know you and I talked that's really good habitat, that's good protection, it's good in all that, but it's not so much public access anymore.
Just a comment, I was looking at there's like, I don't know, who has a number? There's like 100 of these random parcels sort of left over from when the town was developed, and sure,
Dividends.
they're mostly wetlands.
They're dividends.
But they're mostly like hardcore habitat and carbon sinks and, all the stuff that we're here to protect. So it's kind of a great resource, even though they're not a management
And they don't
discussion.
get visibility.
And that's okay, because that's where the bobcats need to move to.
Right, and some of them are physically landlocked.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it would be, ultimately, it would be nice to be able to get, for the commission to be able to get access
Yeah.
to as many of those as possible, just to inventory them and see what's out there.
Right.
Doesn't mean that, trails would go or whatever, but that's a matter of approaching, abutting property owners for
Right.
easements,
Right.
that sort
But-
of thing.
but
In a way, like a CR, we should be checking to make sure we're not getting encroachments, we're not
Yes.
getting somebody built a pool on our property or
Yes.
throwing their yard waste on our land or whatever, which I'm sure is happening.
And I
in some
know
places.
that has happened
Yeah.
on some of them.
Okay, so if you go to the next page, this was my nerd, I had to put together a table here. So this is not necessarily 100% accurate, I'm going to say that right off the bat. This is a listing of our properties and some other non-conservation properties for the purposes of showing some contrast. And I know it's a little dense and wordy here, but everything on here, I think, is open space, Article 97 property. Most of the properties that are Conservation Commission care, custody, and control, that's legally our responsibility, meaning it's more or less we own the deed. We control the deed. The next column is it's our responsibility. So the only difference there would be the two properties that the Select Board has asked us to take responsibility for, which is Warren Pole and the Coolest property. And those ultimately should move into that second column of care, custody, and control once we get the CRs nailed down and all of that. But they're technically not legally under the care, custody, and control of the commission.
That would require a town meeting vote.
And it would require a town meeting vote to make that happen, correct. And then we have the Conservation Commission classification, and this is, I'm making this up. Reservations are, as I said earlier, trails, parking, public access. Land would be generally not trails, public access, although refuges, if somebody wants to walk on a refuge and get their feet wet, nobody says you can't. But that's not the main purpose of those properties. The last three properties and then some of them were acquired through CPA funding, the Community Preservation Act funding, and some of them have or are getting a conservation restriction. And one property in town, the Sheehan Farm, is the only one I know of. There may be land trust properties, but I know that for us, the town, I think this agricultural preservation restriction is the only one on Sheehan Farm. That's the only property with that. So those bottom three properties are owned under the care, custody, and control of the town manager and the select board, not the Conservation Commission. So when we talk about the COSS MOU, for example, that we voted on earlier, those properties, if he's supporting those properties, that doesn't change. That doesn't have anything to do with our decision tonight. We're talking about the properties above that line. So those properties are still under the care, and in fact, at one time, the town manager talked to us about taking over some of those, and we chose not to. And I'm still not inclined to take that over. We have enough on our plate without adding more. So anyway, this was kind of my way of helping to organize a lot of these properties. And we could go down with many more rows of properties, but most of them would be in that category of isolated parcels, and they would be, however we acquired them. Some of them they were tax forfeitures, some of them donations, some of them we bought, some, whatever. But most of them would not have a CR, most of them would not have an agricultural, I don't think any of them would have that. But all of them would come in that first and second column of Article 97 and care and custody and control of the Conservation Commission. So it just, for me, it helped to categorize. It's my nerdy self. Peter, yeah.
This is very good. You did a lot of work.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Again, I won't swear it's 100% accurate, but
Sure.
I think it's close.
Help me out, just for my own edification. I mean, the Wetland Protection Act applies everywhere.
Yes.
And I should know this. Are all of the parcels open to the public, including the landlocked ones we're not talking about? I guess I don't understand that exactly.
It's
Like-
town land.
Right.
We're
It's all
part of the
public,
town. So
isn't it?
let's let David answer. I
Well,
don't,
remember, Carl, that we had this conversation with town council with respect to the Warren Pole CR. And I remember council saying the Conservation Commission can prohibit public access on their properties if the commission is so inclined. That just because it's town-owned land doesn't necessarily mean it has public access.
okay.
For ones
So
that-
it can, but we have not done that as far as I
Correct.
know.
Correct.
So at the moment, I believe if anyone goes for a walk on conservation land, as long as they abide by the land use regulations, which are consistent across all of our land, then I don't see
People just
an
have
issue.
to exercise normal caution. So if
Yeah.
you go on any property and it's posted, no trespassing,
Right.
stay off. I mean, you gotta stay it off. But if it's not posted, the assumption's gonna be it's open to the public.
Does that help, Peter?
Yeah, no, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, let's keep moving. David, if you go to the next slide, and then I'm just going to go through the reservations, so just so we start seeing, hopefully you can shrink that a little bit. Yeah, there we go. So, across all of our sites, so, as you all know, I'm pretty involved in a lot of our reservation sites. Going forward, so in terms of us taking on a lot more responsibility and possibly working with some other volunteers, there's trail maintenance going on. I expect that will continue to keep going. For the most part, I don't see any real change there. Trash cleanup is ongoing. I cleaned up some trash today at our sites. They're looking good. They've been in good shape. We should be updating our trail maps and signage and trail markers. We have a volunteer who's been working that. She's in Michigan with Scott right now working that, but she's doing some work there, and along with Gracie, maybe the young man that worked with us last summer on on the wetlands flagging. He also is doing some GIS work, so I think we can really make some progress in that space going forward for all of our sites. We have invasive management going in many places. The Friends of Coolest Farm have been doing a lot of that over the last few months. Becky's family has been doing a lot. We've been doing a lot at Warren Pole in other areas since we bought the property. We've been doing invasive management there, focusing in very specific areas. But we have a lot more that we want to do there. David, we've talked about Oxbow getting a real step forward for us. Will be getting some kind of an herbicide applicator that can really, unless you do that, I think a lot of it, you're just kind of, I don't want to say shoveling sand against the tide, but a little bit. And then accessibility, this is a big thing that we need to do based on the open space and rec plan recommendations. There's a lot we need to do in that space. Kiosk management, I find when I go to the sites, our kiosks are all over the map. Some are empty, some have old stuff, some are, there's stuff on them that shouldn't be there. So we need to be a little more aggressive and active on that. We can do some stuff there. And then I've heard a lot of people saying it would be nice if we had more interpretive signage on almost all of our sites. Things like, here's what a vernal pool is, or this site was bought in 1983, and here's why it was bought, or the cranberry bog history, or whatever. There's a lot of cool stuff that we could be putting some more interpretive signing out. So all of our sites, these are things that we can be doing on all of our sites. Now I'm just going to kind of rapid fire go through all the rest of the sites. So cranberry bog, we definitely need to be doing some more very specific accessibility changes there. That site, I think, is very close to some work, but to being a really valuable, accessible site, because it's got a nice, long, relatively flat path that goes out to the dam, and that's a big payoff. When you have a site that you want to be accessible, you want a really good payoff. You want the person going there to really enjoy what they're going to, and the cranberry bog's top-notch. So that one, with some work, I think we can really make that one of our premier accessibility trails sites. We have some invasive management that has been done over the years, but it should be we should step it up there. We do need to, David, we've talked about this, monitoring the water level at the dam, the developing guidelines for the flashboards. That's just something on us. It's not so much a stewardship. Well, I guess it falls under stewardship, but we need to figure out what to do there. It's not consistent. We need to know. We have a certain friend who keeps reminding us of that, and we do need to do that. We do need to, based on the engineer's report a couple of years ago, 5-6 years ago, remove all stocky and woody growth on the upstream and downstream sides of the dam embankment. We did take the trees down years ago, 4 years ago, and we have been cleaning that and doing it, but there's still some more that needs to be done there. And then the other thing I've noticed is that we do have a spot on that dam where turtles tend to drop eggs every June, or often in June. And the dogs go across that dam all the time, and I think we should be putting a sign up. We should get a sign made that says turtle nesting season. I don't know if it's good practice to put a fence around it or not, because I guess the turtles drop their eggs and they don't come back. Am I?
That's correct, yes.
So maybe that's the right thing to do to protect them, but
Well, you want to make sure that the turtles can get to their nesting areas.
so I don't know. We have to,
Yeah.
but at least we should have a sign, because there's a lot of people that cross that very narrow area with turtle nest right here and people walking. So at least a sign would say, look but don't touch. Keep your dog away, or whatever. So that's the cranberry bog. Next one is the Red Wing Farm. So the number one thing I think at Red Wing Farm, to me, is the split rail fence is in really tough shape. I had talked to Bob Morse, who's a neighbor who shares the split rail fence and has his own, and he's in the same boat. He thinks it needs to be repaired and or replaced in places. So we need to dig in and do that, because that gets a lot of photography, a lot of people visiting. It's a beautiful site. Other than the neighbors that are a couple doors down, no.
No, those people are crazy, don't trust them.
So, and in general, the site's in pretty good shape. The couple of the neighbors, Bob and Mike Riley, cut the grass, and so it's in good shape. It's that site, but there's a lot of invasives there, so there's always opportunity there. Next one is Thanksgiving Forest. So we have talked about this. So Bill, good comment about the that cube. I saw that water cube.
Beautiful.
It's a great job. You did
It
a
fits
great
in
job.
there perfect, because it's old barn boards it's made out of.
And it looks like they have a trash bin there,
He
too.
made the trash
Yeah,
bin
yeah,
too, the same
yeah.
person.
Yeah, so that's a good one.
Yeah.
So they're moving forward. We do need to figure out, I forgot again to put on there, we need to talk, I should have them come talk about the
Fence.
deer fence. So I will connect with, I think it's Jeff and Karen, and we'll figure that out. Invasive management, Thanksgiving Forest has some spots. I mean, we did the Norway maple trees, and there's a few spots, but it's not the worst compared to some of our other sites. I know that the Land Trust is looking at doing some more accessibility to River Meadowbrook, so that's a future thing. We're happy to work with them on that as things evolve over time, but that's something we can keep in mind. Next one, Russell Mill. Invasive management, I can tell you that the kiosk in the front, the middle parking lot is just a disaster. We need to, I will connect with the NEMBA guys and see if we can get some stuff. That site is, there's a lot of invasives there along that way. The Commission native plant park up front, I think it gets mowed pretty regularly. My friend Dave here cuts it during the summer. That got set up like 4 or 5 years ago, and it's just kind of, I don't know, I think we need to think about what the long-term plan for that site is. I tend to want to do less maintenance in general, as if possible, but it's a nice spot, it's a nice area. It's connected to the Mill Pond area right there, so I don't know. I don't have a strong feeling one way or another.
Is that where the shed is?
Yeah, that's where the shed is, yep. I can tell you that the driveway's in really tough shape. That's one of the things on my list to talk to DPW about. When you drive in there, keep your jaw clenched or you'll lose some teeth. It's pretty rough.
Yeah, but speed bumps.
Yeah, well, that does occur to me, but it's really bad.
It seems to happen every year.
Yeah, it does there, yeah. It's because they use the pavement shavings or whatever
The
they call it.
grindings.
The grindings, and it
Yeah.
just doesn't, I'm not.
You gotta put it in like that.
Yeah, yeah. And then the other thing is a perennial concern is the soccer containers, speaking of containers, these containers are sitting there and these are storing the soccer equipment, the field maintenance and the nets and all that, and they're just ugly as hell. I mean, they're just really ugly, but I don't know a better solution. I'm open to ideas. It's just ugly. It's just, we have this nice, beautiful conservation area, and then there's these two big trailer containers, and they're ugly.
The most important thing is they're secure.
That is, yeah, they are secure, and they get used. I mean, it's not like it's not like they've been sitting there forever and never used. They get used, and but anyway, next one is right reservation. So we made some good improvements on the walkway last fall, and then winter came, so we've got a bunch more that we want to keep doing throughout the site with the same kind of design and improvement on that site. Invasives are all over on that site. We got a lot of work to do there. There is a start and stop project to do a tree tour mapping signage thing there with Jim Martin, and so hopefully we can get that going with our friend Amy as well. And I think that would be that's a great site for that kind of a thing. And then there's also, if you guys know, there's this manure spreader that sits off kind of towards the Burning Tree Lane area, and it's kind of remote. It's a cool thing. There's a tree growing out of it. It's an old ancient thing. It's a little. We could have a little side trail to create some access. It's an interesting artifact on that site. It's a great site. So next one, Warren Pole. So Warren Pole, we are doing a lot of invasive management there in the upper field, and also now with Becky's honeymoon cabin site area. The meadow's coming along quite well. There's a lot of native plants there. There is some invasives in there, but the meadow I think it's in good shape. The edges of it don't seem to have a whole lot of woody growth. Typically, trees grow into a meadow, but because it's a wet meadow, it seems to be doing quite well, but we need to work a little bit more with
Well,
Oxbow.
and it'll be a couple of months before the purple loosestrife is in bloom, so we'll
Yeah,
see how
and-
bad that is this year.
Yeah, so we still haven't figured out a funding thing for that. So
We have until May 15th to come up with some money.
Okay,
If we want to
all
do
right.
it this year.
maybe we do a small test thing or something.
Couple $100?
Yeah.
See what happens?
I would very much like to. This has been almost since day one. I even remember talking to the Disability Commission about this 4 years ago, and I didn't get a lot of response. But I think an accessibility trail to Putnam Brook from where the kiosk is, if you know Warren Pole, if you walk from the kiosk through the brush, create a trail down to the brook. This time of year, as the bird migration happens, the birds are off the chart in that area. And just having a very short not paved, but pervious accessibility trail has to be the right, meet all that. Especially for someone who's can't see, but can hear. It would be a wonderful spot. And I think that would be a really good, something different from just the normal walk out to a place. But that trail wouldn't be all that long. It would be pretty short.
And it's a babbling brook this
And
time
it's
of year.
the
Sounds-
brook, yeah.
the brook
Isn't there a
sounds
little
great.
waterfall or
Yep,
something?
yeah, there's a little waterfall right there. It's a great spot, but it's just completely locked in by invasives and all kinds of brambles and all kinds of stuff. We need to figure out, the museum shed has a lot of agricultural implements. Nothing's happening to them. They're just sitting there. This is the shed up on the hill. But at some point, we probably should address that. I think it would be great to add a couple more benches in a couple of key spots there. We got a bench right by the kiosk last year, I think it was, or the year before. But I think there's a couple other places that we could put a couple of benches because the views are really good there. And then longer term, we've talked in the past about the actual putting a connection in to Wright Reservation, which would be just a simple path, but getting to that path through the woods is not trivial. There's a lot of wet area, would probably be a fair amount of raised walkway, but having that connectivity to the Wright Reservation, it would be nice to connect to the Robin Hill, but I'm not in favor of crossing Acton Road in terms of encouraging that, so.
Yeah.
All right, next is, what's the next one? Lime Quarry. So there's a lot of walkways and bridges on that site, but generally in pretty good shape. Invasive management in places, but it's not crazy bad. I just remember there's the state, we abut the state property with the rest area, and there's a chain link fence there that I believe it's their chain link fence, and there's a couple of trees down that have destroyed the chain link fence, and I think we need to ask the state to come and fix their fence. They probably don't know it's almost destroyed, but not that big a deal. I could see us doing a little side trail as you come into the property from the parking lot and you take a right. As you go around a little ways, there's a really big wetland area off to the right that I've bushwhacked over there, and it's kind of a nice little wetland area. I could see us doing a little side trail there someday maybe, but
Well, I think that is a vernal pool.
I don't know that it's, well, there is vernal pool in there. I think there is, but I mean beyond that.
Oh, beyond that.
There's a kind of a
Okay.
pond, which you can almost see the pond from 110.
Okay.
And I think it might even be part of Beaver Brook. Beaver Brook comes over and then goes back, so I'm not certain.
Yeah, I think I know what
But,
you mean.
yeah.
Yes.
And then, the parking area, there's that little island. We could put some native plants in that area or something like that, although I wouldn't want to do too much to hurt visibility. But Lime Quarry's, it's doing well, and I would call it low on the list of needing a lot of attention.
Did the garden club try to do something out there at one time?
There was talk about it, I think they did, but well before my time, I think Dave McLaughlin worked with them
We
on
did,
something.
we
but-
did. We were working with them some
Yeah.
years back. And
Yeah.
initially, it looked pretty good. I haven't been out there in a while. but
Yeah, I
I think
think,
the water was an issue, wasn't it?
yeah,
That was a problem. Yeah, the water was a problem.
yeah, but if we,
Just get the right plants.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
Well, even then, sometimes you need cubes, water cubes to establish the plants and then pull it away.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you meant it was too wet.
No.
No, the opposite.
The opposite,
they-
yeah.
Got
It's too dry, yeah.
Next one is Coulis. So Coulis is on our list, so we need to get accessible parking signage, the kiosk and picnic tables we talked about, making those happen. The Friends of Coulis have been doing a lot of invasive management. They had, the task force had recommended an accessible trail. I think that would be great. I don't, we'd have to see a plan and all that, just like if we did it at Warren Pole, we'd have to have a plan. We do need to do protection for the vernal pool with a split rail fence and ultimately remove the debris that's in the vernal pool sometime this year, hopefully. I think we should review the need for the shed. The property, the Coulis family had said originally when they sold the property to the town that they really wanted it to be used for hiking and wildlife habitat. Well, that's what, that to me is not mowing the grass every week all summer long. It's let it be habitat, and that's what the original intent was, and that's what we're looking for from a conservation point of view. There's also the request to raise the walkway, put a raised walkway in the back. There's a bit of a walkway bridge back there, but the one we did at Wright Reservation, I think if we did something like that there would be good. A native plant meadow would be great. I think those were also in their recommendations, and but we need to get a botanical survey done on that site like we've done at Warren Pole, and it's like pulling teeth getting those surveys done. But based on those surveys, you can then really do the right thing in terms of a long-term native plant meadow. And I look for a meadow versus a garden. A garden to me is a very small contained, and I think that site needs big bodacious plans, and that's not simple. That's a lot of work to do it right. So that's Coulis.
So Carl, in this, you're really just talking about the big parcel. You're not-
Yeah,
you're not
yeah. I mean, when we talk about the other two parcels, the task force made a recommendation for agriculture for haying on one and pumpkins on the other, and that's what's happening. That's what we've agreed with them on that, and that's all. That's moving forward. The other recommendations they made were the we talked about this last year, the Newhouse Wildlife Refuge and rehab, not a refuge, but a rehab. And our opinion, and certainly the town council came and said, this is Article 97 property, that is not something you really want to do, because it would be, while he said not technically impossible, it would be extraordinarily onerous. And so we said, nope, we don't, and expensive, and so we said, nope, that's not something we want to do there. Okay, and I think there's only one or two more. Crooked Spring, oh yeah, one of our favorites. So accessibility trail to the dam. So the dam, if you know, the dam is just to the left of the parking area, and it would not be a difficult lift to get a accessibility trail from an accessibility better. I think the handicap spot on that site is probably going to need to get moved over and be better marked, and then a good trail down to where the dam is. There's a nice little sitting spot, and that would be a good thing to do and get done, and we could have a project to make that happen. I think there's also a possibility, if you know the sewer line trail, which is the long, straight,
Yes.
more or less straight shot,
Yep.
that we could put some handicap parking at the end of that on the Crooked Spring Road side that would allow parking there. Would probably have to move the fire gate in 5 to 10 feet just to make that happen. and then you'd have some parking there with a long straight shot, and then put a path and like a raised platform, and you're looking out over what I call the Beaver Dam area. There's a big, massive
It's a good
beaver
idea.
dam.
It's a good idea.
And it
because
wouldn't
that
be
would
hard to
really
do,
good.
and it's a
Yeah.
beautiful payoff. That's a great, great spot.
The grade's relatively flat, so
Yep.
somebody in a wheelchair
Yep.
could wheel right out, get a great view, come
Yep,
wheeling back.
and it's a great viewing area, and if you
Yeah.
were sitting there, you get to, I've sat there and,
I mean, you got
I
the
haven't seen
stream right below you too.
I haven't seen the beaver there this year, but,
They're there.
They'll be back.
Yeah,
They'll
they're
be
there.
back, yeah. So that's one. There's always invasive management. Oh, the relocate to trail segments. We talked about that a few weeks back. I think that's one that we need to get on and make that happen. We have some discussion about exactly what to do there, but I think we need to make that happen. Longer term, the Graniteville Road walkway bridge, so if you're all the way at the other end of the site, at the upstream end of the site, there's a walkway bridge. It's a combination of, I'll call it kludged together projects that get you across Crooked Spring from the sewer trail to the other side of the property.
Right.
And it was underwater a few years ago. A couple of years ago, we had flooding there. The beavers were there. I think the long-term plan should be to build a real bona fide bridge that's, a foot or 2 or 3 or whatever the right height is across that whole area. I mean, it's not cheap, it's money, but do it right, get that whole walkway out of the water, and if beaver come, we don't care. The neighbors might might have an issue, but let's do one thing at a time. I think there's also some possibility of, we have to understand what the DPW stormwater plan is there, because right now, stormwater comes off of Graniteville and runs right directly into the stream, which has to be fixed. For me, I think that's a high priority. It's second or third on their list in the next 5 years, but Christine has said, we'll get there, so we just have to be patient and live with the walkway bridge that we have for now, but I think we want to keep that in mind long-term. And last couple of ones, Oak Hill. Oak Hill, you tell me, Bill, you're there more than me, but Oak Hill does pretty well.
It's busy. There's somebody there usually all the time.
Yeah. There's stuff, I know you've said there's trees fall down now and then, or branches.
Right, there's a
whatever.
tree on the main trail right now that fell down this weekend. That hasn't been cut up yet.
Okay. This one and Deep Brook, we know that there's some trail neighboring property issues that we need to work
Yeah.
and resolve so that we can have a much better network that's not like, we're kind of like let's not ask the question. It's like, let's go address this, let's get it resolved and get those resolved. But that's the same thing for both Oak Brook and Oak Hill and the next one, David, Deep Brook. And I think that's the end, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's the end. So I think the story I'm trying to share is we have a good handle on what needs to be done on our sites. There's a lot of opportunity for projects. If we have scouts, if we have volunteers, if we have churches, if we have clubs, whatever, we can parcel out. There's always invasive management that we can do.
Absolutely.
The
Basic
planning
management's
board
big.
said they wanted to do a team event or something like that. I'm just throwing out ideas here, that they wanted to like pull weeds at conservation property or something like that. I don't know, just crazy ideas. But we can come up with stuff like that can, that we can happen. So if you see things that you'd want to add to this list, I think what makes sense, Dave and I are working with James from Paul's office, getting our website. We're almost there. And I think we'll be able to put a lot of this information out there and make it very visible and make our town website actually useful. And I won't swear it'll be easy to navigate, but it shouldn't be too bad. I think we should be able to make it work and helpful. So,
Kyle, can we put on the agenda for the next meeting that we have the list of the active sites and then pass it out to each person
sure.
so that we can keep this ball rolling
Yep.
and not just forget about it after tonight?
Yeah.
So I'd like to see it on the agenda next meeting and say, okay, here's a list of sites. Who's going to, take a look at each, each site.
Okay.
What-
I agree. Let's do that. Any other comments or thoughts or?
Are you looking for comments later?
No, yeah, I mean, if you have any, like, if you know a specific site, we should do this, send that to me, we can put it in there. Or if you have a more general,
Well, I have one general.
Generic.
One general,
Yeah,
if I
that's
may.
too- yeah.
We joined the Sudbury Valley Trust, and you've been doing some work, and you guys have been. They just released their watershed plan. And we should talk about that later. But there's a whole bunch of things in there that they think is important for the Concord River watershed that ties directly to this conversation, and I'll give you a super quick example. There's a bunch of action items about grassland birds. And I haven't digested it, and I don't even know what it says, but some of these, we start talking about fields and whatnot. Maybe there's a way to dovetail or participate in their watershed plan, which might bring some technical expertise, and I don't know, maybe some grant money for something, but we can look at that later.
Okay.
And the other quick thing is, what happened to we were on the Carlisle-Chelmsford Dam Subcommittee, and last time I looked at that, they were looking at Carlisle, and maybe it's done, maybe it's over. They were looking at removing the dam instead of rebuilding it. Their dam that they're talking about would eliminate the pond that has the turtle nesting berm. So there's some big picture things out there we ought to
That's
talk
our
about.
property.
They're talking about their dam.
There's another dam.
They're rebuilding it.
Well, that's not what's in their newspaper as of a couple months ago. They were looking at removing the dam.
Huh.
But anyway, my point is there's some big picture
Yeah.
regional things let's not talk about it now.
Yeah,
but
we can
think
find out.
about.
I think Sylvia is still the agent over there, as far
think
as I
so.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe it's a non-starter, it was just somebody wanted to look at that, but they had slowed down some of that other stuff that we were working with them on, and somebody was looking at that idea, because it was, like $1 million or whatever.
Yeah.
The number was to rebuild the dam,
Okay.
just a
Yeah, I don't
thought.
know. Okay.
Carl, thank you for putting that together. That was
Okay,
a lot of work. That's good.
thanks.
That's good.
And agents report, David, anything,
Nothing new.
nothing else? And approval of minutes, we have minutes. Praise Vivian.
Praise Allah.
So we have February 11th, February 25th, and March 11th. This is the really
Make a
exciting.
motion to approve February 11th. I think that's the one.
That was, nobody was absent, although, actually, Chris, you were only here for part of it, I guess, if I remember right.
Yeah,
On Zoom.
I did think I checked in. I thought it was, I missed a little bit in the beginning, but I was kind of out there in the Zoom, but I don't think you discovered me out there in the Zoom
Right,
presence. But I
right.
think it might have been earlier than 7:24, to be honest. Because I remember catching the,
When we learned you were there.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
was,
when you
I was,
actually got there, I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was pretty close to the beginning, as
Yeah,
I
I would-
remember.
maybe-
At some point,
I
I
would
think we,
suggest you change it to like 7:05.
yeah, I mean, because, it wasn't really until we were kind of doing a roll call of questions, and I kind of said, hey, Carl, I'm out here, and you
Yeah.
kind of went through everybody.
Yep.
And I was like last one there, and I'm kind of, hey, I'm out here,
I take that back on February 11th. They're on the second page, a little more than halfway
So,
down.
one second, so can we change Chris's time to let's say
I
7:05?
think it was like 7:05,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey,
Okay,
that's-
thank
that's
you.
easy, whatever you need.
Okay, go ahead, Mark.
It was the, let's see, when the blocks remained, Mrs. Harrell explained that the house was since truck in '85, and it says the Board of Appeal approved the setbacks last fall. I don't remember I'm saying that. Does anybody,
I don't think it was saying that you said that. But I'm not sure, I don't know.
I don't know what it means.
Well, this is 61 Smith Street?
Yeah,
Yeah, the ZBA did have to approve a special permit. I think it might have been for a setback relief. I
for the
can go back-
construction of the house?
No, the addition
Oh,
that
oh,
they're
all right.
proposing. I can go back and double check exactly what.
I think Maureen said it.
Oh, all right,
I think she
okay.
did too.
I didn't remember that, okay. I need a motion to,
Okay, so motion from Mark to approve the minutes of February 11th with the one change as noted.
Second.
Second from Bill, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so meeting number one, next one is meeting number two, February 25th. John was, I think you were in Peru? No,
Toledo Key,
yeah, okay. You weren't here, I know that.
a nice place.
All right, this was when we had the RDA for what we just talked about, Pine Hill, Caroline Farley. And continued. All right, I'll take a motion for approval of the meeting minutes of February 25th, 2025. Motion from Mark, second from Chris, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So all, and John abstained. Next, we're up to March 11th. Everyone was here. That's right, we had a little change in sequence in this one. All right, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes unless I hear changes. I don't see any changes. Meeting minutes for March 11th.
So move, Carl.
Mark.
Second.
Motion from Chris to approve, a second from Peter. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion approved. And one last thing from David.
Yes, I did think of something. So, there's 3 weeks now before the next meeting. So I think the Wetland Bylaw and Regulation Review Subcommittee,
We should meet.
we should plan to have a meeting sometime. Thursday of next week looks good for me.
Thursday? or Tuesday?
Thursdays are tough for
Well,
me.
yeah, Tuesday would be good, except that, I'd have to get the agenda. Well, I
Let's-
guess strictly speaking, I'd have to get it posted by Friday.
Okay, let's, we can close the meeting, we can figure it out, because it's just 3 or 4 of us.
Yes,
We'll
okay.
have to hold it, okay. Take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Move.
Motion from Bill, second from
Second.
Chris, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Meeting
Aye.
adjourned. Thank you, Chelmsford Telemedia, appreciate it.